Welcome back, everyone. We now begin our session 2. The moderator of this session is Mr. Parvez Karim Abbasi, Assistant
Hello,
Professor,
sir.
East West University. Our keynote speakers of this session, Lobjang Dorji, PhD Research Scholar, Country Associate, Bhutan, DCAF, Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance. He will join virtually with us, and Colonel Nalin Herat, RSP, Director Media, Ministry of Defense and Acting Director General INSS, Sri Lanka. Now, I would like to request our session chair, Mr. Parvez Karim Abbasi sir, to start this session.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, welcome to the post-lunch session on the first day of the International Seminar on Climate Security, which has been titled Droughts, Floods and Fault Lines, Regional Conference on Climate Security in South Asia. Again, I know that after lunch, people's energy is rather low. So, and again, it's a battle against boredom. So, we'll try to keep you entertained on a very, what would I say, ambitious topic as climate security. And today with us, we are very proud to say that we have two of our South Asian neighbors being represented by very eminent experts. As you have heard, over here there is again Mr. Lobjang Dorji from Bhutan, and again he is a PhD research scholar, country associate, Bhutan, and DCAF, Geneva Center for Security Sector, and he will be talking to us online. So while he will be presenting, we can hear his voice, but during the Q&A session, I'm just laying it out, again, the questions, though if you direct it to him, unfortunately he cannot hear those questions, so I'll be acting as the conduit. And also physically present, and again, we also have Colonel Nalin Herat, again, Director of Media, Ministry of Defense and Acting Director General, INSS, Sri Lanka. Welcome, sir. So before we start the ball rolling, and we'll start with a Bhutanese friend, because again, I'm not a big believer of technology, so let's get this over with. Let me say 2 to 3 minutes worth of my introduction on climate security and what I know about. First of all, this is a qualifier, because again, there are two doubles over here. One, I was not supposed to be a moderator in this session, but again, I was roped in the last second because, again, of another contingency. And also, one of the presenters who was scheduled to be presenting over here, again, unfortunately, she fell sick. So, again, Colonel Herat very kindly decided to go up the schedule. So it's a bit like Bangladesh. So there are a lot of disastrous or unexpected turn of events, but we always manage to find a solution along the way. Now, talking about climate security, and I know that this is not a very favorite word now, with the current occupier at the White House being a firm denier. He believes in the denial of climate security, and he calls it hoax. And his favorite words are drill, baby, drill. But the issue at hand is that, again, unfortunately, knowledge is no one's personal fiefdom. So if you go across history, and I know many of the defense personnel are generously represented over here, changes in climate has had significant impacts on the course of human history. In fact, if we believe in Darwin's theory of evolution, the dinosaurs were wiped out because of mass climate change. That was, again, one thing, whether it's a comet striking or, again, with the evolution of Homo sapiens, that was also a direct byproduct of climate change. And I won't go into the history of this, but all the earth-shaking movements, the formation of empires, the destruction of empires, the destruction of civilizations has been brought about by climate change, whether by droughts, whether by changes in temperature, either, again, excessive cold or excessive heat or excessive rain. It has caused mass migration. And this is one of the themes that we'll be looking into. And whether we talk about the Mohenjo-Daro civilization, a large portion of it which is housed in Pakistan, which again has been destroyed according to archaeologists, because of climate change, or the Maya civilization in South America or Latin America, or the migration of the Huns in 4th or 5th century, which set a chain effect from Mongolia, which destroyed the Roman Empire, or even to later day events like the Little Ice Ages in Europe, which caused the 30 Years' War, or even the Arab Spring, which was brought about by climate change in Syria, partially. All of those means that there are deep impacts of climate on how civilizations respond, whether civilizations thrive or they perish. Now, over here, as of late, we have seen an increase in global warming, and that has brought in changes in the climate patterns. It has increased migration of climate vulnerable people, and it has caused inward migration, it has caused outbound migration, it has caused increased salinity, it has caused, again, erosion of our coastal areas, and again, it has caused economic hardship. So how each country responds to this is probably what we would want to find out. And for this, from a unique Bhutanese perspective, which is also in the epicenter of climate change, we would now we would hear our esteemed Bhutanese friend, and I believe he has 20 to 25 minutes to make his presentation. So if we could now have the presentation from a Bhutanese friend. He can hear me? Oh, yes. Mr. Dorji, you can hear me? So we are waiting with bated breath. All right. So the screen is yours. So again, please, you have 20 to 25 minutes to make your presentation.
Good afternoon. Greetings from Kingdom of Bhutan. Distinguished chair, respected panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Today I am here to speak on the topic hungry people, angry people, climate security and fight for food stability in South Asia. Many of us are aware on climate security and food stability, as it is increasingly interlinked in our South Asia, a region highly vulnerable to climate-induced food crisis. And there is rising temperature, erratic monsoon, and extreme weather such as flood, droughts have disrupted our agricultural production, leading to food insecurity and social unrest. My paper examines the relationship between climate change and food instability in South Asia, focusing on countries such as Bhutan. It explores some of the cases, while then some of the climate-induced, it explores some cases while in conflict. Additionally, this study highlights policy responses, regional cooperation efforts, and climate adaptation strategies aimed at mitigating food insecurity. Thereby integrating the case studies and empirical data, my paper underscores the urgent need for sustainable agriculture practices and a climate-resilient infrastructure and regional food security framework to prevent climate-induced conflict. South Asia, if you look at diaspora of South Asia, a region encompassing countries such as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Bhutan, it is home to nearly a quarter of the world's population. This densely populated region is highly vulnerable to adverse impact of climate change, particularly due to heavy reliance on agriculture for livelihood and economic stability.
Mr. Dorji, I believe that you could also turn on your PowerPoint presentation, because we are stuck on the first slide.
Yes.
So then I think you could have more of the audience's attention.
Yes. However, this sector is increasingly threatened by rising temperature, erratic pattern, and extreme weather events such as flood and drought. This climate-induced disruption have led to insignificant decline in agricultural productivity, exacerbating food insecurity and triggering the economic displace, migration, in some cases while in conflict. Therefore, this interplay between climate security and food stability in South Asia is growing concern for policymakers, researchers, and international organizations. Climate security refers to the risk posed by climate change to human well-being, economic stability, national security, while food stability encompasses the availability, accessibility, and affordability of food for individuals. In South Asia, these two concepts are deeply intertwined, as climate change directly impacts agricultural production, which in turn also affects the food availability and prices. For instance, in the 2008 food price crisis, which was exacerbated by climate related crop failure led to the widespread of social unrest and riots in several South Asian countries, including Bangladesh and India. Similarly, in Bhutan, a small Himalayan nation known for environmental conservation effort, the climate-induced food shortage have triggered internal migration and socio-economic challenges, according to National Statistical Bureau of Bhutan. Therefore, my paper examined the relationship between the climate change and food instability in South Asia with a particular focus on Bhutan. It explored how climate-induced food shortage fueled economic distress, migration, in some cases violent conflict. Additionally, my paper also highlights the policy responses, regional cooperation, climate adaptation strategies aiming at mitigating food insecurity. The findings of my study contribute to the growing body of literature on climate security, food stability, offering valuable insight for policymakers, stakeholders working to address the pressing challenges in South Asia. Now, let us look at the discussion part, the climate change and food insecurity in South Asia, the vulnerability of South Asia to climate change. So here are some of the keywords on India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Bhutan. So let me elaborate on those keywords. These are mainly the vulnerability of South Asia to climate changes. So South Asia is one of the most, to reiterate, one of the most climate vulnerable regions in the world, owing to the geographical location with a high population density, high reliance on agriculture. So according to the International Governmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC 2021, the region is experiencing rising temperature at a faster than the global average. This has led to this significant disruption in agricultural productivity, particularly in countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Bhutan. The region's dependence on a monsoon rain for irrigation further exacerbated its vulnerability as erratic rainfall patterns have become more frequent in recent years. For instance, in the 2019 monsoon season in India was the wettest in 25 years, causing widespread flooding, crop damages, while 2020 monsoon was delayed, leading to the drought condition in several states. This extreme weather event have devastating impact on food production, threatening the livelihood of millions of farmers and exacerbating the food insecurity across the region. So now let us look at the impact. Now impact on agricultural production. So impact, now as we are aware, and many of us are aware that agriculture is the backbone of South Asia's economy, employing over 50% of workforce, contributing significantly to GDP, according to the World Bank 2020. However, climate change has severely impacted the crop yield, particularly the staple crops such as wheat, rice, maize, and as we know, our dietary pattern in the South Asia, that these are some of the staple crops. For instance, wheat and rice production in India and Pakistan has declined due to prolonged drought and heat waves. In Bangladesh, rising sea level increased the salinity have rendered the large tract of agricultural land unsuitable for cultivation, leading to the significant losses in rice production. Similarly, in Bhutan, where subsistence farming is prevalent, unpredictable weather patterns have led to the crop failures, threatening food security for rural community. And this decline in agricultural productivity have far-reaching implications for food availability and affordability, particularly for low-income households that spend a significant portion of their income on the food. So thereby, the social unrest, food insecurity has a correlation to social unrest. So food insecurity in South Asia has far-reaching consequences, extending beyond hunger, malnutrition to include economic distress, migration, and social unrest. When food supplies dwindle, the prices disproportionately affecting low-income group. This economic distress often lead to the social unrest, as seen during the 2008 global food crisis, which triggered riots in several parts of South Asian countries, including Bangladesh and India. Similarly, in Bhutan, the food shortage have led to the increased migration from rural to urban area, straining resources, creating new social economic challenges. Thereby, the link between food insecurity and the unrest is particularly concerning the region, already grappling with the political instability, ethnic tension, and economic inequality. Addressing food insecurity is therefore not only a matter of ensuring food availability, but also of maintaining the social cohesion and political stability. Now let us look at the case study of Bhutan. Struggle with the climate-induced food insecurity, Bhutan's unique challenges. Bhutan, a small Himalayan kingdom, is often celebrated for its commitment to environmental conservation and its unique developmental philosophy of gross national happiness. However, its mountain terrain and reliance on a sustained agriculture make it very highly vulnerable to climate change. And according to National Statistical Bureau of Bhutan, over 60% of population depends on agriculture for their livelihood. And then, in addition to that, the erratic weather pattern, including unseasonal rains, prolonged drought, have disrupted the crop productions, leading to the food shortages in rural areas. For instance, the 2020 system drought in Bhutan resulted in significant losses in maize and rice production, threatening food security for thousands of households, according to the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. These challenges are compounded by the country's limited arable land, which accounts only 2.93% of total area, making it difficult to increase agricultural production to meet the growing demand for food. Now, if we look at some of the political policy responses in Bhutan, to address this issue, the government has implemented several climate adaptation strategies. These include promoting climate-resilient crops, improving irrigation infrastructure, providing financial support to farmers. For instance, the government has introduced programs to promote cultivation of climate-resilient crops such as quinoa and buckwheat, which are further suited to the country's changing climate conditions. Additionally, Bhutan has prioritized regional cooperation through initiatives such as South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, which aims to enhance the food security across the region. However, the effectiveness of this initiative has been limited by financial constraints, inadequate infrastructure, and lack of technical expertise, highlighting the need for greater investment in climate adaptation strategies. Now let us look at the regional cooperation and then the policy responses, the role of SAARC. Now the South Asia SAARC has played a crucial role in addressing climate-induced food insecurity in the region. Through initiatives such as SAARC Food Bank and SAARC Seed Bank, member countries have worked together to ensure food availability during emergency, SAARC 2018. The SAARC Food Bank was established in 2007 and to provide food assistance to member countries during the times of crisis, such as national disaster, crop failure. Similarly, SAARC Seed Bank established countries to improve agricultural productivity and food security. However, the effectiveness of this initiative has been limited by political tension and lack of coordinated action, highlighting the need for greater regional cooperation and political commitment among the member states. Now, national policy in South Asia. Now, individual countries in South Asia have also implemented several policy measures to combat food insecurity. For example, India has launched National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture, which promote climate-resilient farming practices such as organic farming, agroforestry, and crop diversification. Similarly, Bangladesh has introduced the Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan, which focuses on improving the agricultural productivity and food security through measures such as development of climate-resilient crop varieties and construction of food-resistant infrastructure. In Pakistan, the government has implemented National Food Security Policy, which also aims to ensure food availability and accessibility and affordability for all the citizens through measures such as development of irrigation infrastructure and promotion of sustainable agricultural practices. These national policy responses are critical to addressing the challenges posed by climate change and ensuring food security in the region. Now let us look at the implementation challenges in policy implementation. Despite this effort, several challenges remain in the implementation of climate adaptation strategy in South Asia. Limited financial resources, inadequate infrastructure, lack of technical expertise have hindered the implementation of climate adaptation strategy in many South Asian countries. For instance, the lack of access to modern agricultural technology and practice has limited the ability of farmers to adapt to the climate change conditions. Moreover, the political instability and bureaucratic inefficiency have further complicated effort to address food security. For example, in Nepal, political instability and lack of coordination among government agencies have hindered the implementation of climate adaptation strategy, leading to delay in the delivery of critical services and support to the farmer. Thereby addressing these issues, Addressing these challenges require greater investment in climate adaptation strategy as well as improved governance and coordination among stakeholders. Now let us look at climate adaptation strategy for climate adaptation strategy, for food security, especially the sustainable agriculture practices, and the crop diversification and agroforestry are one of the keywords which involves integrating trees and shrubs into agricultural landscape can improve the soil fertility, reduce erosion, enhance water retention, thereby increasing the resilience of agriculture. Resilient crops such as quinoa and buckwheat has shown promising results and improving the food security. These sustainable agricultural practices not only enhances food security but also contributes to environmental conservation and biodiversity preservation. Now, climate resilient infrastructure. So, investing in climate resilient infrastructure is another key strategy for mitigating the impact of climate change on food security. Improve irrigation system, water storage facilities, and weather forecasting technologies can help mitigating the impact of erratic weather patterns on agricultural production. For example, India's Pradhan Mantri Krishna Sachya Yojana aims to enhance water use efficiency in agriculture through better irrigation infrastructure, reports asserted by Government of India in 2050. Similarly, in Bangladesh, this construction of flood-resilient infrastructure such as raised homestead and flood shelter has helped protect agricultural land crop from flooding. And these climate resilient infrastructure investments are critical to ensure the long-term sustainability of agricultural production and food insecurity in the region. Now let us look at to conclude my paper. Now climate change poses significant threat to food security in South Asia, with far-reaching implications for food stability, migration, and social cohesion. The cases of Bhutan highlights the urgent need for climate adaptation strategy that addresses the unique challenges faced by vulnerable communities. And sustainable agriculture practices, climate resilient infrastructure, and regional cooperation are critical to mitigate the impact of climate-induced food security. As the region continues to grapple with the effect of climate change, policymakers must prioritize this strategy to ensure stable and secure future for South Asia. The findings for this study underscore the importance of integrating climate adaptation strategy into national, regional food security framework, as well as need for greater investment in sustainable agriculture and climate resilient infrastructure. By addressing these challenges, South Asia can build a more resilient and food secure future for its population in South Asia and beyond. Thank you, one and all. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dorji. Let's have a round of applause. I do recognize the fact that, again, there were some technical problems with the presentation, and that can happen to the best of us, and that too coming from another country. And again, but in the interest of our audience, let me, in my humble capacity, sum this presentation so that at least some elements stick with you during the Q&A session. And do correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just a summarization. And I think I'll do it with each presenter. So again, Mr. Dorji's focus, if I'm not much mistaken, is again the link between climate change and food security, or food insecurity for that matter, in South Asia, and Bhutan's response in terms of adaptation strategies, and its national policies. That is the central theme. And Mr. Dorji started off by quite rightly saying that, again, South Africa is a very climate change vulnerable region, which houses at least 1/4 of the global population, and again 50% of South Asia are directly or indirectly engaged in agriculture. So any slight change in climate patterns would have devastating effects on day-to-day life of the South Asian citizens. Now, over here in recent times in South Asia, because of the change in climate pattern, you have had erratic monsoons, you have had droughts, and that has resulted in a negative impact or adverse effect on crop yields. Crop production has gone down, droughts have increased, and flash floods have increased also, which has also destroyed, or which has considerably negatively impacted the supply chain of agriculture commodities. And that in itself, along with rising salinity of soil, has meant that, again, food insecurity has become a major problem which has socio-political dimensions. Because when availability of food is limited, people go out and they suffer the most. Food inflation hits ordinary people's savings the most, and as a result, what has happened is that has resulted in frequent political unrest, ethnic conflicts, and inter-regional and regional conflicts. Now, over here, he has also quite correctly mentioned that, again, if he looks into Bhutan's case, where probably 60% of the people rely on subsistence farming, which unfortunately Bhutan has only 2.93% of its land is arable, that is fit for cultivation. Now, in case of Bhutan, if we look into this carefully, Bhutan's policy response to climate change, because it also is subject to climate change fluctuation, is again to grow more of climate resilient crops like quinoa or again bucket wheat and wheat and others. And that in itself is a degree of ingenuity, and that has also been shown in Bangladesh, where we are growing climate flood-resistant crops, where the crops grow with rising water levels. And again, there's also investment in improved irrigation infrastructure and greater SAARC cooperation. However, there are challenges such as funding gap or, again, technical limitations and the need for external collaboration. And in this case, again, Mr. Dorji also highlights the making of use of the much forgotten SAARC infrastructure. Because the SAARC food bank, the SAARC seed bank could be a hub for regional collaboration in terms of addressing food security issues brought about by climate change. And also then he gives examples of countries such as India, Bhutan, Pakistan, which has come up with their own unique climate change policies, specifically in order to ensure food security. And last but not the least, he has also pointed out the barriers to greater regional cooperation to reduce the problems of food security. And one is, again, political mistrust, political distrust, or again, populist tendencies, which gets in the way of wholesale productive regional collaboration and cooperation. And again, he then also ends with a positive note that, again, some examples which have been followed in Bhutan, or Nepal, India or Bangladesh, if it could be replicated and duplicated on a sub-regional scale, it would reduce the threat posed to food security brought about by climate change, and would bring the people of South Asia closer. Apologies if in terms of summarizing I've left out certain issues, but I think this would be an adequate summary for the time being. Thank you. And that brings us to our second presenter, Colonel Herat, and I believe he will be presenting on, and let me just read out his topic. Again, powering peace, renewable energy for climate security in South Asia, the Sri Lankan perspective. So on to you, sir.
Honorable Chair, my other panelist, and President of the BIPSS and his team, all the diplomats, military officers, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First of all, let me extend my sincere thanks to Major Munir Salam for inviting me for this session, and the steps he is taking to strengthen the affiliation between Institute of National Security Studies, Sri Lanka, and the BIPSS. So, powering peace, renewable energy for climate security in South Asia, that is my topic. So let me start my presentation with a quote said by one of the Democratic politician in US. So nowadays it's very difficult to hear anything in favor of climate change or climate security from US side. It's because Oval Office is dominated by President Donald Trump. So he says, I quote, "It is time for a sustainable energy policy which puts consumers, the environment, human health and peace first." Denis Kucinich, I unquote. So this is one of the politician who was fighting for a kind of different approach in favor of climate change. So climate change is a crisis and urgent needs in South Asia because 1/4 of the global population is occupied by in South Asian region. And if you take India, if you take Bangladesh, if you take Pakistan, so all are highly populated countries. But we have an island state also, like Sri Lanka and Maldives. So by 2050, there will be another 600 million of people will be added for this population. So the climate, the energy requirement will be more high and high in South Asian region. So country like India, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, 70% of the energy requirement depends with like oil, fossil fuels, gas and hydropower. Sorry, fossil fuel, gas and coal. This is one of the challenges faced by the South Asian region, and these changes, the like weather events, and I think Dr. Salma very comprehensively brief about the experiences Pakistan perspective. So now it has become a global threat, and there was a famous quote said by UK Prime Minister Churchill. He said, "Don't trouble the trouble till the trouble troubles you." But this is not a trouble. You can't wait with that quote, because before it troubles, we have to address it. That's the truth. So my general outline of my presentation is this, as flashed on the screen. So what are the sources of renewable energy? I think many of you understand, all of you understand it is. So nowadays we are talking about solar power, hydropower, wind, tidal, geothermal, biomass. Now India has tested hydrogen engine, railway engine according to their explanation. So that is the best experiment so far has done in the world. I think they were able to produce a train engine which they're comprised of 1,200 horsepower. So there are different ways, modes of renewable sources of renewable energy. So how we can have a different approach in this South Asian region? So now, even for an example, Sri Lanka had the opportunity to go for a solar power project in 1980s. So what happened? That approach was changed, and Sri Lanka approached for a different approach, that was hydropower. Because many citizens think that water is unlimited resource. I think some of the speakers also elaborated that water is no more unlimited resource. It is a limited resource now. So how we can have a different approach in order to have in order to go for renewable energies? So there are certain aspects, that is financing models. So that is blended finance. So that is we can go for some other organizations, because what we have to know is that World Bank, IMF, they were created after the Second World War in order to assist countries in financially, but their visions and missions have not been changed as per the current situation. I think they are Asian Development Bank, World Banks are assisting for the countries in order to go for renewable energy projects, but not in a large scale, but they need to change in that approach also. That is one of the aspects we have to remember. And there are other projects like Green Climate Fund and the World Bank. So I think Green Climate Fund is another good approach. Then pay for performance model. So this model involves payments tied to the delivery of actual results, such as reduction in carbon emissions or renewable energy capacity installed. And like international partnerships can be forged between governments, development banks, and private investors who provide upfront capital for infrastructure, while payouts are linked to the achieving specific climate or energy access targets. This is another approach they can take. Then climate bonds and green bonds, and issuing bonds tied to climate goal is becoming an increasingly popular way to finance energy transition projects. So these bonds are issued by government, corporation, or international finance institutions, and with the proceeds earmarked for renewable energy projects, so energy efficiencies or other climate-related investment. So that is, the International Finance Corporation has been actively supporting green bond issuing. So where our region is lacking of engaging with them. Then public-private partnerships, PPPs. So this is also very essential. At the moment, whatever the power most of the power renewable energy agreements or sharing power, renewable energy power is happening with government to government, G2G deals. There's a big lacuna of engaging with the private partners with those like from Bhutan, Nepal, Bhutan. The Nepal is providing power to India, and Bhutan also providing power to India. But most of these deals are happening with like government to government deals. But we have not engaged with the private partners. This is one of the area where we have to engage with private partners. So there is the Desertic Initiative has brought together public and private partners from Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa to develop solar power project across MENA. Right, this is African region has kind of different approach with different organizations, private organizations as well as world organizations to go for kind of different introducing renewable approach, because many of the countries in South African region, so people don't have power. So now that some of the countries, South Africa, Egypt, and like country Ethiopia, these countries have engaged with the different partners and trying to introduce a kind of different approach. So other thing is energy as a service model. So this model allows consumers, particularly in underserved areas, to access energy services without having to invest in expensive infrastructure. So private companies manage energy infrastructure and provide clean energy solutions such as solar home systems, microgrids, and energy storage for a fixed monthly fee. This is what I was mentioning about Sri Lanka in 1980s. So that project, if that project would have happened, today Sri Lanka would have been in the better position to demand it. This is, I have mentioned here about MCOPA. So MCOPA also another private venture which is heavily engaging with providing some financial assistance to the African region people, citizens. Cross-border renewable energy networks. So regional energy integration through shared power grids can increase access to renewable energy while promoting energy security. By creating a network of interconnected energy systems, countries can benefit from each other's renewable energy resources such as hydropower, solar, and winds. International partnerships can facilitate the development of cross-border infrastructure, financing, and regulatory framework. So the Southern African Power Pool, SAP, is an example of a regional partnership that aims to improve energy security access by linking energy markets in South Africa. So, if we talk about Paris Climate Agreement, which was initiated in 2015 with the, I think, backing of President Barack Obama, then President Barack Obama. So now there is a problem that Donald Trump doesn't want to continue with the Paris Accord. But European Union is pledging that even though they will continue with the Paris Agreement without the US. So we are in a very unpredictable world. We never thought that COVID pandemic would malfunction or dysfunction the entire world. More than 1 year, the entire world was without functioning, locked down. People could not move. Supply chain was heavily disrupted. We never thought that President Donald Trump again would go to Oval Office. And we never thought that US would be the greatest enemy of European Union. That's the bitter truth. So when there is a global crisis, I can remember when President Obama was giving a speech, when there is a global crisis, it would ask from Washington, what are you going to do? Now we are going to lose that response from White House, so what we are going to do now? So Paris Climate Agreement, so it has some kind of agreements, it has some kind of provisions to limit, restrict carbon emissions by different states. So benefits of cross-border electricity grids, that is energy security. So South Asia has to act as a region. We have different political opinions, but at the moment it is not functioning. I think most of the speakers in the morning also described that. So energy security is essential because even the Middle East countries, now they are planning for renewable energy. They are the people who are providing fossil fuels, but now they are thinking about green climate. They are planning about electric vehicles. So as a region, why we can't have a kind of approach? Then cost saving. The electricity is very, energy is very expensive. So if we look at our region, so we have a problem that is poverty. So people have to pay a lot of prices for the energy. So if you have kind of agreement, understanding, so we can save this cost. Then other one is integration of renewable energy. Then reduced environmental impact. So this is also, there are certain projects, the mega projects. So we need to identify the impacts, negative impacts of those projects. So then we have to strike a balance. Even I can remember there was one expert, he was expressing about solar powers. He was asking, so after using all these solar power panels, what are you going to do? Where are you going to deposit it? It will have a kind of negative effects. So we have to plan for that also. That was he was mentioning about that. Then grid stability and reliability. So this is where we can call about grid, smart grid. So there are a lot of developments are happening. So especially like Russia is heavily engaging about this smart grid developments. They are they really want to use it for the civil as well as for the defense purpose. So benefit of joint renewable energy projects, so enhance energy security, that is with the regional cooperation, power pooling. So when you have kind of dependency with other country, I can remember somebody was arguing that when India wanted to have wind power project in Sri Lanka, don't you think that Sri Lanka is going to depend on India? So that mindset has to be changed. So then cost reduction and economies of scale, shared infrastructure, lower energy cost. Then boost to sustainable development. So now I think the UN has the agenda of the UN is to achieve the sustainable development goal in 2030. But as per the UN, now that prediction is whether we don't have any confidence about whether we are going to have that SDG goals by 2030 because of pandemic and other issues. Then, but anyway, boost environmental benefit and renewable energy access. So environment, the connection between the mankind and the environment. The moment it is hampered, the mankind is losing. The connectivity is very important. Even every religion is teaching about the connection between the man and the environment. Lord Buddha said, a king, the king of the country, is responsible not only the citizens of the country, he is responsible for the plants, different type of plants, and other creatures, animals, and other resources, everything. Prophet Muhammad said to his army, don't destroy a branch of a plant from your plant from a branch of the plant without a reason. So that's the connectivity elaborated by the different religions. Then other one is increased regional integration and cooperation. It's strong diplomatic ties. This is what we need today. So Bhutan is providing, Nepal is providing electricity to India, and India is providing electricity to Bangladesh, and there are potential projects, the projects which India are going to provide electricity to Sri Lanka. So the diplomatic connection, that is what we needed. That is where SAARC is lacking. And because of tensions of Pakistan and India, the SAARC, there was an argument very recently. Some said SAARC is dying, but some said SAARC doesn't die, it will go. So this is what we need. So example of joint projects. So this is the only organization we established, we initiated for the betterment of the region. But as a region, we have not been able to continue with the objectives, the vision and mission of SAARC. So what went wrong? I think Dr. Salma gave a very good answer about. So, we cannot look at it with the political angle. And a couple of days ago, I was watching movie Kapan. I think I was watching it for the third time. And my daughter was asking, are you going to buy her the movie? I said, no, I am interested about Surya and the story. There was one part in the movie, a corrupt businessman is proposing to the Prime Minister of India how to destroy the paddy crops in Pakistan. They have created a different creature, a fly, which can destroy the paddy fields of Pakistan, any country. And he's elaborating that he had done it in African region also. He is asking, okay, let's destroy and let's send this creature to Pakistan and destroy. But the answer that was given by the Indian Prime Minister, he's asking, are you eating rice? He says yes. A person eating a rice, you are trying to destroy the crops of another country. But he doesn't agree. I was very happy to see this kind of situation even in the movie. So that is a collaboration kind of understanding we need now. So challenges and the way forward. Financial and economic barriers. We have a lot of financial and economic barriers. Most of the public funds are not sufficient enough to address these renewable energy projects. That's why I elaborated, so we need to engage with the private sector also, private investment. There should be some kind of policy development, initiation in order to encourage them. Then technological and infrastructure challenges. So region is lacking of technology, but there are some other countries which can really support to other countries. So India has the neighborhood first policy. And even we can get the assistance and technical support from other countries like European Union and from technological savvy nations. Then political and regulatory challenges. So this is one of the area where we have to look, consider. Then social and cultural challenges and global cooperation. This is very important. So other one is, I think, AVM Hussein elaborated about this green defense. So the defense sector is one of the contributor for the carbon emission. And geopolitical tension also indirectly contributing for that. If you look at the US military, if you consider the US military as a country, if US military were considered as a country, US military will go to 47th place. That much of amount of fuel is consuming by US military. Having 11 aircraft carriers, having 800 foreign bases, having one of the sophisticated military in the world, it contributes. So it consumes a lot of fuel. That's the bitter truth. But having all the surveillance around the world and beyond the world and the galaxy could not focus on California. A small bushfire spread out to the entire California, where all the rich people were residing. So that's what I said. So this is a challenge. So we have to address, we have to have some kind of new approach. So defense also, we need to address it. And even we asked from our institute, we asked from Triforces, okay, what is your preparation about or attain sustainable development goals, how we are going to contribute for the climate security and the protection on environment. We have a lot of agreements, we have international humanitarian law, Geneva Conventions, but even though having all these agreements, conventions, but today the two conflicts, they are talking about two main conflicts, that is Ukraine, Russia and Gaza. But look at the way the fightings are going. Are they complied with the law? But there are laws. It specifies about the environment protection, cultural heritage, cultural protection. Everything is mentioned there in the law. The problem is the approach. So this is the green defense, the structure, that is climate change. We need to address this, energy security, then defense expenditure, military operation. If we take South of Asian region, this region heavily contributing for the defense budget, including Sri Lanka, because we had to do it, because we were fighting with the war for 3 decades. We were fighting, but if you look at India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, all these countries heavily contributing for the defense budget. So global defense budget also going up. Now it's passing 2 trillion. Out of 2 trillion, US contributing 850 billion. So these are the challenges, how we are going to, but even though have we really addressed our common threat? So when you have a common threat, when you have a common enemy, that is the occasion where entire community can get together and fight.
So let's
just watch this video about the hydrogen engine.
That have developed this technology, and India has developed now the most powerful engine, a hydrogen fuel engine of 1,200 horsepower. Coming up behind me are some details. It's the most powerful such engine in the world. That's what the railway minister has said. It uses indigenous technology, so that's good for our railways. We've been developing our own technology. It's good for Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India, and it's soon to be tested on the Jind-Sonipat route in Haryana. So we're going to see this train work out, and we'll know after that how it's going to help. Hydrogen is a very fuel-efficient kind of fuel because, first of all, it's part of the green fuels that the world is going to be moving to, and it can be easily manufactured. India has a big hydrogen mission. India is planning to produce about 5 million tons
First of all, that we have already learned that this is
So she was the mastermind of the project.
Engines, hydrogen-powered engines in the world. So all over, there are 4 countries which have already mastered this technology, and but India has gone a stage ahead. And whereas the horsepower which is available in the rest of the world is roughly around 500 to 700 horsepower per engine, per powered car. We are aiming to get 1200, and it will also make this train the longest train in the world, which runs on hydrogen, green hydrogen. So we will be having 10 coaches.
That's wonderful. So we are planning to have about 35 these kind of trains in the near future.
So in India, 20 million people daily they use train as a mode of transport. And Sri Lankan population is 22 million. It's almost similar to Sri Lankan population India is using. So Bangladesh, Pakistan, even Sri Lanka, one of the main mode of transport, the railway. So I don't think that any country asks any assistance from India. According to my knowledge, no one. So India can help, he can assist. So it's how we approach, it's how we act as a region. So this is my conclusion, and renewable energy presents an unparalleled opportunity for South Asia to address its pressing energy while mitigating the impacts of climate change. By transitioning to clean energy, the region can simultaneously advance economic development, improve energy access, and reduce dependence on fossil fuels. This is the objective we must assist, depend on the fossil fuels. And the benefits extend beyond environmental sustainability, as renewable energy has the potential to foster peace, cooperation, and shared prosperity across borders. In this vision of the clean energy, future South Asia could be global leader in climate action, setting an example for other regions of the world. By committing to renewable energy, countries in the region can work together to build a future of shared security, economic prosperity, and environmental resilience. In doing so, they will not only be powering their economies, but also powering peace for future generations. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Colonel Hira, for a very comprehensive, futuristic view, without emotions, without subjective bias, in the problems of energy security, and again, what could be done on an individual basis. And also, the one thing that I really liked about this was, again, it was so replete with examples, practical, doable examples, whether it's from the MENA region or whether it's from Southern Africa. So when we are talking about, again, energy connectivity, or again, clean energy or renewable energy, the areas that you chose to emphasize would be the areas that, again, South Asia as a whole, if it chooses to come together, would face a common existential threat. I would not attempt to, again, summarize this, because I believe that it was very well presented. So again, I would not be wanting to waste the audience in your time. Again, my compliments, because it is very exhaustive. But what we would do is that, again, we are technically over here. Let's see how it goes, but we will be here for 30 to 40 minutes for a Q&A session. So both the presenters are over here. I believe Mr. Dorsey is also online. So, and I've summarized this presentation so that, again, you're not left.
Yes,
oh, yes, you are? Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. And so what we will do is we'll open up the floor. So kindly introduce yourself and then limit your question to a minute or two so that we can take as many questions. So after taking a bunch of questions, 3 to 4, we are going to again go to our fellow presenters, and if you want to address the question to a specific presenter, so name. So again, specify that. So with this, I'm opening the floor. I believe we have our volunteers who will also give you the mic. So just raise your hand, and again the mic will be sent to you. I see again 2 or 3 hands already. So the first 3 questions, and then we'll go to our presenters. Yes. Let's start with ladies first, because again, the gender balance in this panel is a bit skewered, not by choice but by accident. So we'll just start with it, and then we'll go with you gentlemen. All right, all in due time.
I asked the first question in the first session.
Then this is a monopoly. We have to break this.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
actually I want to ask this question, or rather pose this rather conundrum or puzzle to both of our speakers, Mr. Durji and Colonel Herat. We all know right now we're concerned about international funding about climate change because of the changes in Washington. So then we are looking, and both of your speakers I could see were also emphasizing on regional cooperation in this regard, which is good. However, in regional cooperation too, there are many glitches, as we've seen. For example, we saw that very nice futuristic almost train, which you just now showed in India, which the hydrogen run train. And also Mr. Durji was speaking about different technologies and all for climate resistance, or to address this issue. However, we find the same problem again and again about technology transfer, cooperation. Always politics enters the political issue always enters it. Like if we want to help from India, their conditions. If we there's always politics involved. How do we overcome this?
I believe you have made your question. The idea is that again, funding constraint, but also another important issue is technological constraint. So again, technology transfer is impeded by, again, degree of distrust between the regional players and the strings attached, so to speak. So how do you circumvent this? So that will be the question to the speakers. We'll take two more questions, because I saw a cluster of hands. We'll come to you, sir. I saw two more hands raised. Yes, the gentleman at the back, and then, sir, we'll come to you. Sir, kindly introduce yourself and then specify which question do you have to which presenter.
Thank you. This is Dr. Mohammad Khurshid Alam, working at Bangladesh Agriculture Research Institute in the area of food security. My question is to Mr. Dorji. He already mentioned different policies, measures already adopted by Bhutanese government to address the climate change as well as food security. One of that measures, that is organic farming, that is mentioned by Mr. Dorji. My question is to him that to what extent this policy would be able to achieve the food security. Yes, I know the organic farming has the potential to reduce the greenhouse gases, but it is quite questionable to contribute in the food security. That's why I would like to know to what extent this policy will achieve the food security. And already Bhutanese government has adopted the policy to execute the organic farming by 2020, but still it is waiting. So thank you. If I get the answer, I will be happy to learn.
Thank you, sir. So the second question is to Mr. Dorji, and specifically on how organic farming can address food security. But I think we'd be also interested in hearing the Sri Lankan perspective, because if I remember correctly, ex-Premier Rajapaksa tried organic farming and it had disastrous consequences for food security and led to his government's ouster. So again, we would like to bring in both their perspectives. But thank you, sir. Very well noted, your question. Is there another question? And then we'll take three in a row, and then we'll revert. Sir, I believe you raised your hand. Yes. Kindly introduce yourself, sir, and then your question.
I'm Bharat Bhushan, a journalist. My question is to Colonel Nalin Herath. You said private sector should be involved in regional power purchase agreement and power generation. Now, there are two examples where private companies were involved, and it's created problems rather than solved any. One is in Sri Lanka, the Adani wind power project, which has become infructuous. The other one is in Bangladesh, Adani supplying electricity to Bangladesh at exorbitant rates, and Bangladesh seeking to renegotiate the power purchase agreement. So here are two examples of not government-to-government cooperation, but private sector and government cooperations which aren't working well at all. So what do you say, what impact will it have on future collaborations between private sector and governments in South Asia?
All right. Thank you, sir. I believe your question was that, again, though private firms have been mentioned under public-private partnership or P2G or G2P, again, and you mentioned instances of, again, private companies in the case of Sri Lanka and also in our very infamous case of Bangladesh being stuck with a very exorbitant deal. And again, so if you try to rope in private companies in terms of supplying clean energy, what are the check and balances? Or again, what should be the policy response? I think that is the thrust of the question. Yes, sir. Again, I'm just reinterpreting your question for the audience. So we have 3 questions. So I think one question was specifically addressed to Mr. Dorji, and if he wants to address other 2 questions, is your floor, sir. I believe you have 3 to 4 minutes to answer those questions, or 5 minutes. So, over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the questions. The question was regarding the food security in Bhutan, the policies and progress and challenges. So when we are delving into the food security in Bhutan, there are some progress and challenges, and we also need to understand the topography and the location of Bhutan. So although government has initiated many agricultural policies, a government initiative, and sustainable agriculture and environmental conservation, even abiding and adhering to the Constitution of Kingdom of Bhutan, and even through the nutritious and health program. But then Bhutan is suffering from dependence on food imports, because Bhutan imports significant portion of food, rice, wheat, oil, everything from India, and trade dependence from India means fluctuation in Indian export affects Bhutan's food availability. And we also have a portion of climate change and natural disasters, low agricultural productivity, and market and infrastructure challenges. So now, and then Bhutan also has framed a certain policy called Vision 2020. By 2020, Bhutan would achieve all the planned economic development, social development, and security development. By 2029, Bhutan aims to become a developed country, and recently we have graduated from LDC status. So now an answering call after the transition of a democratic constitutional monarchy, after transition to democratic constitutional monarchy, now we have had a part and parcel of our problem, and then in order to solve that problem, our His Majesty, the Fifth Majesty has envisioned the vision for a sustainable and holistic future. I know that many of you heard about it, Gelfu Mindfulness City. So Gelfu Mindfulness City is a unique and Bhutan's ambitious urban development project envisioned as a model for a sustainable and holistic living proposed by Fifth Majesty. This city aims to integrate Bhutanese cultural values and environmental conservation and economic development in a way that aligns with the principle of GNH, and located in the southern Bhutan near the Indian border. So Gelfu is said to become the regional hub that lacks modern infrastructure but deeply rooted with spiritual and environmental ethos. So these are some of our answering call that is Minister's initiative, that although it is urban planning, but then the green, the zero carbon footprint, the low density development, green infrastructure, sustainable energy, eco-friendly transportation, spiritual and cultural center would be established, integrated into the urban planning, and this element aligns with the Bhutan's constitutional commitment in maintaining 60% of forest cover all time to come, and pledge to become carbon neutral country for all time to come. And we have, and then we know that, and then there is also, it's not only about rural-urban migration, but then there is also huge influx of exodus among the youth and the professionals, and there is also a huge portion of bringing in from Bhutan to other developed nations. So thereby, the Gelfu Mindfulness City is expected to serve as an economic gateway, offering new opportunities in trade, technology, tourism, wellness industry, and that will create a job opportunity in sustainable industries. And then foreign investors are also, some of them have already signed an agreement. Some of the high-class university from US and the United Kingdom will be their branch, and then the constituent university will be established at the said Gelfu Mindfulness region, and then the tourism route and regional connectivity, which further enhance trade and economic ties with India, and it goes to Bangladesh and then Southeast Asian country. So thereby, despite these promises, the development of Gelpo Mindfulness City will face several challenges, but city represents Bhutan's forward-thinking approach to urbanization, one that prioritizes happiness, sustainability, cultural integrity. So it stands as a beacon of how cities can be built with a compassion, balance, and wisdom, offering model for future urban development across the globe. And as Bhutan embarks on the journey, so Gelpo has a potential to become a global symbol of a mindful living, where economy coexists with the spiritual well-being and environmental harmony. So in a way that will also answer some of the problem that although it has been set in the policy, but then there are some critical hurdles and challenges in meeting the deadlines and then achieving the ultimate outcome of the policy thereby. So, and answering for all the problems that Bhutan has faced, some of the socio-economic challenges, environmental challenges, climate-related challenges can be solved. We are not going to destroy in the name of development, but then we are developing an environmental-friendly urban center and then attracting the foreign investment where even the laws and regulation is also been based on Singaporean law and based on some of the Middle East countries' rules and regulation where every countries are encouraged, and now many investors are coming, and then very soon our international airport where it will connect to the South Asia and Southeast Asian countries, and most of the world would be one of the destination, and it eventually started just a few months ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe we got 2 presentations for the price of 1, because nothing is more effective than visual communication. So again, and we have all become very mindful of the Gelpo Mindfulness City, and again, that's a very ambitious initiative of Bhutan, and I've heard about it during my last trip to Nepal, again, from one of your fellow Bhutanese scholars. So, and that also answers Bhutan's very organic, holistic, systemic approach to green energy and again climate security. It's all intertwined into again probably a different vision which only Bhutan can envisage, where we can actually be, at least we can replicate little parts of it, obviously based on our own unique aspects. Thank you, Mr. Dorji. You have been very exhaustive. And one of the reasons why I did not interrupt you for time was because, again, there was some problems there with technical glitches with your PowerPoint presentation, so I thought that the audience would have enough time to actually listen to you one-on-one. Thank you. But bear with us. So again, so that leaves us with, again, 2 questions that has been left for you. One is, again, the international funding constraint and the technology transfer barriers, especially in terms of strings attached. And again, the elephant in the room is, again, India has a technological advantage over the rest of South Asian countries, but for historical reasons, political reasons also, again, many of the South Asian countries, let's put it as politely as possible, as diplomatically as possible, is less than desirable. So in this environment, what you said is quite right in terms of the way forward. But how do you envisage for policy leaders to take the next possible step? I think that was the question. Sir. So that's the first question. The second one was, again, how do you actually regulate private firms if you want them to be big players in terms of providing green energy or, again, clean energy? Because, again, at times there are very little check and balances, both within the country and outside. So those are the 2 questions. Sir.
Thank you. So now we know that due to Washington's recent decision and international funding for especially climate resilient projects in Bhutan, the policymakers and then the government of Delhi need to rethink to implement 13 5-year plan, which ends in 2028. And then we know that Bhutan is highly vulnerable due to glacier like outburst flood, and then international funding plays a very crucial role in strengthening climate resilience. But at present now, to inform you all, Bhutan receive GCF for funding for disaster risk management and then climate resilience and transformation in agriculture sector. And then Bhutan also receive a global environment facility, adaptation fund, World Bank, EDB, bilateral assistance from India, EU, Japan, and UNDP, and so forth. Now the challenges is there now. There is, despite funding opportunity, Now, Bhutan faces several challenges. Now, grant application require technical expertise, which can be a barrier one, and the limited adaptive capacity, dependence on foreign priorities. So thereby now, the government of Bhutan now, with the recent the recent changes in shift in foreign policy by Trump administration now they are enhancing the institutional capacity, which would mean during the recent national address by His Majesty, Bhutan, the numbers does not, Bhutan has 700,000 population, and then if we feel that by number we are lacking, but then what we need to be is a competent bureaucratic civil servant, where civil servant or public servant need to shoulder the responsibility of 8%, 1:10 ratio, by initiating the civil reform in the country, so that it does not hamper and hindrance a public service delivery. So apart from that, now the indigenous knowledge and our constitution can also help, and then through carbon, now in our National Highway Plan, there is also one output where the government of the day need to sign the need to initiate the carbon trade initiatives, and then apart from that, now we know that our economy is very small. Now we have diversified our electricity. Our economy for Bhutan is it comes from hydropower and tourism, and then so far we were selling electricity to India, and then selling to India, and there was no diversification. So whereby now we did diversify our economy in harnessing Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies, where Bhutan is still been seen in the global ranking of in the category of third. And apart from that, now all the government initiatives now, electricity has been alternative sources now, diversification was mining of the Bitcoin. Apart from that.
All right, Mr. Dorji, thank you. You have been very exhaustive. Thank you. Again, actually, we got more than we asked for, because we also got the Bhutanese perspective. But now, thank you very much. Stay with us, but now let's hear from our friend from Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan experience, and sir, your insight.
I think, ma'am, the question you asked about this, the political approach, so how we are going to think a different approach. And very recently there was a kind of tense situation between India and Maldives. And Bangladesh also was undergoing a kind of political turmoil. Did SAARC come and discuss? Did any member of the SAARC wanted to have a meeting? Nothing happened. But I was telling, my opinion was, when India and Maldives, when they had these tensions, geopolitical tensions, I said, my opinion was, Sri Lanka would have done a backdoor diplomacy in order to ease the tensions. Sri Lanka has the experience. In 1962, when India and China, almost they went for a war, our Prime Minister came and she mediated to solve the problem. So even though it doesn't matter whether you are a large state or a small state, look at Singapore. It's like almost a size of our Colombo district. But when it comes to the global politics, Singapore is well ahead. When Singapore was created, the per capita income was $565. Today, they have developed it up to $90,000. How it happened? And India transformed its economy within 10 years. And Tamil Nadu economy is going to be 3 trillion economy by 2035. Then we have, as country like Sri Lanka has to look up and think how we are going to leverage that economic prosperity in order to gain something for Sri Lanka also. So I think when a member of the SAARC is facing a problem, I think everybody has to come together. That doesn't happen. This is where we have to address. But we have done it. We had issues. Even family members can have the issues. So then countries, of course, they have issues. But only thing is that the way we approach. So there are different things. Sometimes you have to look at in different ways. Politicians, I think they should not be restricted with their political opinions, and they must do something, and they should come up with something different. So need to have some kind of common approach as a region, and SAARC has to be strengthened again, and it has to be function. This is the only regional organization. So without that, what we are going to do as a region? So India has to take the leadership, of course. He has to take the leadership. Then definitely other members will follow it. And other thing is developing, enhancing military diplomacy. So this is one of the good approach to ease the tensions. So engage with different military leaders and different militaries and doing some kind of common activities and have some kind of common approach. That is another thing where the tension can be sorted out. And yes, other thing is that think tank like this, they can have different recommendation, opinions. They can derive something. Even now for climate change. So most of the NGOs and private firms are talking and doing experiments. So if we go without private partners, so I think that we all are stakeholders. So even if we take the South Asian region, we don't have sufficient funds, public funds to invest on this infrastructure and new renewable energy projects. Then what is the way? What is the method? What is the best approach? So get involved with these private partners also. So we can do some policy reforms and feasibility studies and likewise. So there are some kind of robust mechanism has to be formulated and get involved with them, and we can go for a kind of very win-win situation. So.
All right. I believe we have another 10 to 15 minutes, but again, we are still open to a few questions, so we'll take another 2 or 3 if the audience feels enthused about it. Or again, because again, the more the questions flow in, the greater the ideas, the greater the debate is generated. Anyone else wants to pitch in? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you
Please
so
introduce yourself and the question to whom you are asking.
Thank you so much. My name is Salma Malik. I'm a participant from Pakistan. My question is directed to our Sri Lankan speaker. Colonel, you just alluded to SAARC and that we need to make it work. In the previous session as well, we had a lot of conversations surrounding SAARC, that being the sole regional forum. So it is not working, and this is in real time. We even saw that during COVID, there was a half-hearted attempt. How do we make it work for a better climate-secure South Asia and for better comprehension within the neighbors? Because we've also seen that even if there's a -1 formula that we were discussing previously, there's a lot of arm twisting that happens for the summits not to take place and otherwise. Plus, there's shortage of funding. So can you think of a solution around that? Thank you so much.
All right. Do we have any more questions, or then the Colonel nearly jumped in with the answer, but again, I had to restrain him because, again, sir, introduce yourself and the question to whom.
Actually, I was not trying to ask this question. I am Lieutenant Colonel Hassan from Bangladesh Defense Services Command and Staff College. But the idea of Ms. Aisha Kabir and also the question from Professor Salma Malik encouraged me to ask this question. And also we have eminent journalist from India, Bharat Bhushan ji. So now question to the speaker from Bhutan and also Sri Lanka, keeping the observer from Pakistan and India and Bangladesh as the mediator. So now the question of SAARC is coming always. Is there any possibility that we make SAARC functional? Then if not, then what are the means of other small states or the minor nations like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan and Maldives? So can we think of keeping only one India and Pakistan in an organization? No, then India or Pakistan, that organization, they will not help that organization. Can we think of discarding both India and Pakistan from that organization. It might, yes, I understand. So, a organization of 6 nations where India and Pakistan is not there, but observing as observer nations, there are a lot of organizations in the world. Now, why this thing is coming to my mind? Because there are organizations at the neighboring states of ours, the Myanmars, the Singapore, Malaysia, they have taken that the Southeast Asian that organization. That is working. Yeah, ASEAN is working well. Now the Shanghai Cooperation Organization cannot work well. Now the BRICS, there are some difficulties, cannot work well. There is China and also India. And Shanghai Cooperation Organization, there was India, that Pakistan is again there. So it's not working now well. Now, if in any organization there is a very big state and others are very small state, then that will not be an organization. That there will be always authority by someone, but that will not be a negotiation. That will be a command or something like that. So, are the small nations of South Asian countries, the rest 6 countries, can at least think of some platform like the subjects like this climate change, security impacts of climate change, or the vocal nation, the suffered nation, like we have seen from the presentation that India is having 7% impact on these carbon emissions, whereas other small countries are having only 1.5% or something like that. So can't we think of some organizations where these small nations can have their voice to say something? And when these 6 nations can work peacefully and very coherently, that is the time when India and Pakistan will see, yes, these 6 nations are improving, developing and going well ahead. Then they will, they might understand the necessity of remaining together. It's not my opinion. I am just asking, is it possible in our context or not?
We need to have such interesting questions. Just a quick question.
Thank you.
Do you mean 6? Are you including Afghanistan or?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I am. That is understanding that security concept and what you had been trying. I understood it and I have.
Oops. Our Taliban friends would be happy, but I can't say about our Pakistani friends. So you have irritated both the Indians and the Pakistanis at one go.
Right. And in this question, I'm keeping India and Pakistan both as observers.
Yes.
So
they have been very consistent. Thank you. Very interesting question, and we will go to both the speakers. So one more to complete the set. Does anyone else want to jump in with a question, or we'll be happy to go to the speakers for such loaded questions? And I'm sure we'll be very interested in hearing their answers. Anyone else? No? Okay. So this time around, sir, we'll start with you. I think you get the drift of this. One is, again, what can be done, where again in SARC, basically you have another question over here? Someone or no? No, over here there's again, in SARC at present, one of the reasons why SARC's demise was spelt out in effect was because of the -1 policy, and again, probably out of modesty should not refer that again -1 referred to Pakistan. So again, anything to do with Pakistan meant that again SARC event would be abandoned. So how can you advance forward? And we have actually an interesting answer, or a possible answer to this is, again, the perennial rivalry between India and Pakistan cannot be, well, if it cannot be managed, so can we have a viable organization minus these 2 countries until they sort their problems out, and we can work on low-hanging fruits or futuristic issues which should not impede our connectivity. Again, sir, it's all about the clean energy focus, but we can also take it forward. So both the questions are related, so you can answer at one go, and then we can go to our Bhutanese friend. So first with you, sir.
I think we need to look at the history. If we really read the history well, it doesn't repeat. Normally we say that history is repeating. My point is, history doesn't repeat if we read it properly. So, isolating India or leaving India and going for another kind of alliance is not going to work. Because as a region, so India takes that leadership, so he has to be included for anything. So I think, but there are some countries like Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is very good in mediating and negotiation and for the developing of peace. And Bhutan, Nepal. So these countries can do some backdoor diplomacy. And other one is, I'll give a very simple answer. how India and Pakistan going to sort out these issues. This is Chatham House rule. The moment Pakistan army, the moment Pakistan military says we are ready for peace, everything will be sorted out. That's the only answer, I think. So, and that is the problem, I think. So, that understanding is needed. And the other thing is a kind of different approach, like Trump approach for Russia-Ukraine conflict and Middle East. Before the inauguration of President Trump, Israel wanted to finalize the negotiations between Hamas. Same way, but even though he's a kind of unpredictable leader, he was able to get down all these Russian counterparts and other stakeholders to Middle East and have the negotiations. And President Putin gave a very positive reply, very positive response. So at the moment we are talking now, by now, there are 120 conflicts are being fought around the world. So out of these 120 conflicts, there are 60 non-state armed groups involved. But we talk only few conflicts, but there are 120 conflicts are being fought. So we need a peaceful world. We have a common enemy, that is climate change. So without addressing that issue, that challenge properly, so when we have a common enemy, so we need to address that common enemy and do something, some remedies. So without doing that, so if we are going to have, if you are going to develop tensions with the geopolitical tensions, and then what will happen, the regional instability comes. So we need, as a region, we need a very stable region. So we can't leave anyone behind, even Afghanistan. We never talk about Afghanistan, but he's a member of SAARC. Yeah. So we need everyone together and go for a different approach. So here, India can take a very good leadership. So he's the man. He's the country who can initiate something. When India says something, other members will never say no. So this, I think we need something, we need to think something out of the box and come up for a regional harmony. Otherwise, this region will not go for a long run, and we will have the different challenges, and otherwise what will happen, state will react isolated and address, but as a region, there is no positive progress in the region. So I think we need some kind of different approach as states. Even small states can do something. We can do backdoor diplomacy and involve and contribute something.
Thank you. When we are using the small state or minor state, I would like to add my qualifier. Though as a moderator, just like the UN, on paper I'm neutral. Small meaning the geographical size, or in terms of the impact that you have on the geopolitical neighborhood. But again, that's only that part again, because if we continuously start to refer to ourselves as small nations, again, how can we expect the bigger countries in the neighborhood to take us seriously? So small is just a geographical construct, because again, with 174 million people, Bangladesh is by any definition anything but small. So again, that's not jingoistic nationalism, but that's also a change in mindset that we also need to bring in. Small nations is in terms of just only geographical size. But now we have almost but not forgotten our Bhutanese friend. So again, he had a very, we found that again, face-to-face is very enthusiastic. So we'll give you the, I think this is the last question of this session if you don't have any others. So how do you respond, Mr. Dorji, about, again, how do you revive SAARC to actually tackle very pressing concerns like climate change or the threat of climate security? And what role can countries such as Bhutan play in reviving SAARC? Or is there we need to think of an alternative setup to SAARC where the geographically smaller countries can cooperate and collaborate? So those are the two questions that come your way. You have 4 minutes or 5 minutes, sir.
This question is very relevant to me. I wrote a paper on it a few years ago. In 2021, I published a paper on the revisit of SAARC Charter. So now I see in the tire and the ladies and gentlemen who are attending these in-person conferences that We know that since her inception, the SARC has, since inception, have held only 18 SARC summits. We have missed more than 16 or 17 SARC summits to be held. Many summits have been postponed or cancelled due to bilateral dispute and the contentious issues and also the political problems. The paradoxical nature of member states engages in creation of sub-regional grouping in the region. There is a regional grouping, but from the sub-regional group, from the regional grouping, it gives birth to the sub-regional groupings such as BBIN or SAFTA or so and so forth. And India and Pakistan is very key element in the region, in the regional organization. However, both the countries have undermined the summit process. As a result, the only hope for smaller states in South Asia like Bhutan is to await the improvement in Indo-Pakistan relationships in the region. In future, SAARC will face new challenges with China, US diplomacy trades, while maintaining the presence in the region. And given those constraints, SAARC will have to revisit the structural problem of SAARC Charter Article 10. SAARC Charter Article 10, Charter Article 10, we need to revisit the Article 10 Charter. So the Article 10 Charter, it ascribes and asserts that decision at all levels should be taken on the basis of unanimity. If one country disagrees to participate in the process of the summit, so automatically, so the summit is being postponed or cancelled. So therefore, coming from a very small, tiny country in the entire region of South Asia, now the SAARC Charter has been laid in 1985, so we need to revisit the Article 10, the contentious issues and the contentious issues, the decision at all levels should be taken on the basis of unanimity, need to be changed. It should be based on third majority or something like that. And interestingly now we have a regional bilateral and the contentious issues. But then the SAARC summit, bilateral and contentious issues shall be excluded from the deliberation. So whereby when the economic state from each South Asian countries, when they are participating in the summit, now these bilateral and contentious issues, instead of solving in this kind of a dialogue or in this kind of a platform, but then these things are not being included, these things are not being permitted by Article 10, and then I come from a very small, tiny country, and I immensely feel that if we can revisit the SAARC Charter Article 10, instead of unanimity, if we can give them a simple majority vote, if one country boycotts or if one country cancels the summit, then it does not hamper to the process of the summit. And most importantly, now we have a parliamentary issues, we have an identity politics, regional politics among the member states. So these things can be sorted out in the deliberation of the SAARC, but then this does not allow, according to the SAARC Charter Article 10, these things need to be revisited, this process needs to be revisited. And as a unanimity section of the article empowers the freedom of any member state to franchise any proposals in the region. Consequently, there is no platform among the member states to resolve the differences in the region. So accordingly, the process to resolve the issues in the region, thus the ratification of SAARC Charter Article 10 provides an opportunity to move SAARC, a regional body, to new heights instead of giving birth to sub-regional grouping like, for instance, BBIN, and then again forming the alliances, bilateral alliances. Instead of, if we can rectify Article 10, then it provides a new height to so-called the regional organization in SAARC. And however, the pragmatism among the leaders in these countries raises a question of doable among the region.
Thank you, Mr. Dorji. Thank you. And I think that is a perfect time. Oh, just 1 minute, sir, and then we'll be wrapping up.
Yeah. In 2001, there was a situation Sri Lankan military was about to lose Jaffna. Then then Army Commandant General Musharraf, so they were course-mates. So they had the telephone conversation. So it's not like a diplomatic conversation, a kind of conversation between two course-mates. He asked, okay, tell me what do you want? Can you send some multi-barrel rocket launchers? Within 1 week, it was airlifted and sent. We saved Jaffna. in 2022, we have the very bitter experiences about this energy security, food security, and everything. It was a big economic, it's a kind of economic mismanagement. But we experienced all these things. So that time, we asked from some other countries. They said, no, we have given you enough, we can't give it. Then the neighbor India came and they gave $4 billion to recover. So, and there's another story. So give me 1 minute. Madam Chandrika went to New York for a UN summit. Then she was the president, and she met President Nelson Mandela. Then he had asked, how is your mother? Is she doing well? Then she said, yes, sir, she is doing well. Then next year also she went. And again, he asked the same question. Then Madam Chandrika got angry. Then she asked, sir, last year also you asked the same question, and today also you asked the same question. What is this? You know, when I was in Robben Island as a prisoner, she used to send me the sweetest poems. It encouraged me. It inspired me. That is the diplomacy of your mother had. She kept quiet and came. So, different approach we need. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I think on that note, we would like to summarize. And again, I would not attempt at false modesty and I say that this is beyond my capacity, or else again, why would I be moderating? But again, if I just summarize this in one or two pithy sentences, again, our friend Mr. Dorji, again, took us on a journey on, again, the perils of climate change, especially posed to food security, and again, the approaches that Bhutan has taken. And he has also highlighted that, again, using avenues of SARC, like SARC Seed Bank or SARC Food Bank, to again foster greater collaboration. And again, the idea of going for, again, climate-resistant or drought-resistant crops, or again, investing in sustainable irrigation, and also pooling of funds through the agency of SARC or affiliated organizations would help in reducing the threat posed to, again, food security due to climate change. While, again, when our friend from Sri Lanka, Mr. Herat, over here, also posed a more pragmatic, futuristic, technocratic approach. And over there, he looked into the fact, highlighted the fact that in South Asia, the demographics are such that with increased population growth, there will be greater dependence on fossil fuel and hydrocarbons. And that in itself will only exacerbate our environmental damage or pollution. So he has also laid out very realistic approaches to contain the damages posed by environmental degradation or pollution, and again, the climate change also. And some of them, and I won't attempt to go for all of them, one thing that struck me was blended finance, whereby, again, strategic use of public funds along with, again, philanthropic funds, and again, basically co-opting private investment over here. And in this case, he has also looked about the Green Climate Fund, which was, again, is working in parts of Southeast Asia and in, I believe, in MENA, the Middle East and North Africa region. There was also the pay for performance model, which, again, if you go for carbon emission, again, you will be compensated, which was, again, a part of the Kyoto Protocol and, again, the Paris Climate Change Agreement. There was also the climate bond and the green bond, which is aggressively pursued by International Finance Corporation, a sister organization of World Bank, which unfortunately has been discussed in the context of Bangladesh, which I know because I had been involved with it during the 111 stint, where, again, the IFC was playing a big role in terms of, again, bringing this climate change models, especially in terms of green bonds, but has not yet been implemented. Another way was, again, public-private partnership, the G2G, and also, again, government-to-government partnership, and also, again, government-to-private sector partnership also. Apart from this, if we look into, again, certain ways into looking into this, one thing that he has emphasized is there's no way apart from, again, South Asian nations collaborating, and that has been also reiterated by our Bhutanese friend. But the problem is that, again, of our myopia, our mutual distrust, but again, and that also within our audience, we have seen that, again, and I think a very interesting and very important point has come in, that revisiting Article 10 of SARC, whereby, again, all SARC members do not have to concur on terms of uniformity. So majority vote can apply. Then SARC can be revitalized. And bringing in Afghanistan to the fore, that is also an important issue. And again, we cannot be prisoners of our past history. And to do so, we need greater public engagement. And this kind of platforms or people-to-people interaction or track-2 diplomacy is the way forward, and especially in terms of climate change, which poses an existence threat to our joint shared neighborhood. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I take your leave. A round of applause for our presenters. Thank you, Mr. Dorji. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Herat.
Thank you, Mr. Parvez Karim Abbasi, sir, for your valuable time and support. Thank you all for your contribution and engaging discussions today. Your expertise and perspectives have truly enriched our conversation. Looking forward to more insightful discussions tomorrow, and our session will begin at 10 a.m. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
But very interesting question. I really what's